He's an ex-gunner. So I want total respect.
Right. Very sad.
And it's Mr. Mooney.
Hang on,
okay?
I'll switch this off.
Yeah, and it's Mr. Mooney, being a gunner, okay? But no, seriously, Bill is been wood turning, I think, even before he was born. And he's highly respected for the work he does. And as you know, he's a member of Blind Veterans UK, which is even more amazing that he can produce the stuff he does. The idea of today, I know we've turned pens, but it's just, Bill's just going to demonstrate how he goes through the process of doing the pens and the kind of finishes he does. Do you want to? Yeah. Come in, Evie. Come on. Sorry. Have you got a chair there? Yeah? So that's the idea. About an hour or so, and if you need to get up and go out, then by all means do so. And if you find a wobbly stool, be careful. We'll repair that later. So I'll hand you over to Bill.
Cheers, Chris.
Yes.
Thanks.
Right, ladies and gentlemen, you've done the introductions. I have been turning along. Turn the Pens for Blind Veterans as a thank you for what they've done for me, because without their help I wouldn't be here today talking to you now, because first of all I wouldn't have the confidence to do it, and secondly it's helped me to do things which I wouldn't have been able to do otherwise, and it's my pleasure to be here. I don't really want you to think that you're going to see how good I am on the lathe. What I'm hoping is that you can learn something from what I show you, then you can go home and try it. And as we always say in wood turning, if you ask a wood turner, if you ask 100 wood turners one question, you'll get 100 different answers. Because everybody develops their own way of doing things. And the only wrong way is the unsafe way. So I'm not telling you this is the way you have to do it. I'm just showing you the way I do it. There's other ways of doing it, there's other tools you can use, there's other finishes you can use. I'm not going to go into them, because what I find is that some demonstrators do go into it when by the time you go home, your mind's puddling, you don't know what's right and what's wrong. You get too much information in one go. So if you want to use a skew to make a pen, you use it. If you want to use a carbide tool, use it. If you want to use a spindle gouge, by all means use it. What I use is what I've got here. I use my roughing gouge. They call it a roughing gouge, but really it's a bad name for it, because you can use it like a skew and get a beautiful finish with that. So what I do is I'll go from square to round, and I'll take it down to the diameter that I want. And then I use this tool, which I made myself. And what it is, it's half a planer blade, and it's high-speed steel. And it does all my pens, every one of those pens in there have been finished with that. But anyway, I'm going to start right from the beginning, because putting it on the lathe is only half the journey of making the pen. So this is the worst job of making pens, you get these bags open. Right. That's what you start with. A blank, which they're nearly all square. Some you do get in the wrong, but they're nearly all square. And you've got to roughly size them. So put your tube on, give yourself a few millimetre more, because you've got to square your ends and you've got to size them down to the tube. Mark them so that your grain or your, if you're using acrylic, your pattern matches. And then you can cut them. And once you've cut them, you've got to drill them. Some people drill them on the lathe, other people do them on a drill press. Just tell you yourself how you do them. But you learn, not necessarily by mistake, but you learn by experience, that some timbers, when you drill them, the fibres get pushed with the drill, and then the fibres come back out again, and that makes the hole too small. And what you'll find is that sometimes the hole is right size at one end slightly less at the other. When you put your tube in, you put your glue on, you put your tube in, and you can't get it in. So always check them. It should be a fit, just like that. And what I do, if I do get tight ones, I'll go back to drill. Now just hold it in your hand. I'll put the drill point in there. Now I set the drill away and I run it up and down the flutes. I'll turn it round. I'll do the same again, and then I'll try that again. Sometimes you've got to put a little fail in. You've got to fail it. But you want a good fit like that. Now when it comes to gluing them in, some people use 2-part epoxy, some use super glue, and others use the polyurethane expanding glue. I've used all three. At present I'm using the expanding glue because my grandson's in the trade and he gives a tub of that glue. What you have to do before ever you glue is you've got to get some sandpaper. I use 80 grit or 120, doesn't really matter. And you've got to rough your tube up, because if you don't, the glue won't hold. So you've got to give it a good key. You give it a good rough right around both ends, and that will give you the key. Now I'll get a little stick. Here. It's just a tea stirrer, and I'll put some glue on. I'll put it in there into the hole. You got it to do both ends. You hit the hole. There you go. You got the glue inside. You need gloves on, the neoprene gloves, otherwise you'll be up your eyes with glue and you cannot wash it off, especially the foaming glue, because it's water that sets it off. So you need a pair of gloves on. And I'll put the glue on there. Push it in the hole. And what I'll do is I'll push it down and pull it out, and I'll twist it and I'll turn the blank. That gets the glue right round. Now I'll take it out and I'll put some more on, and I'll do the other end. Same again, turn your blank, and then you'll be left with that little bit that you were holding, and you always got to build up a glue around the end there. Just spread it onto there, and take your thumb and twist and push till it goes in. Now the end that you do that at is the centre of your pen. The reason why you do it that way is that if it was, say, 2 or 3 millimeters longer than what your blank is, you're going to lose that when you size it. And if you double it up, because you've got 2 pieces, you could lose 4 milli or more, and that can mean that your pattern doesn't match up exactly. So you want the least taken off the middle of your blank. It doesn't matter how many millimeter you take off there, because that doesn't match up anything. And set them down. Always put them on newspaper. Now, what you'll find is that if you use the Gorilla Glue, which is the polyurethane, as it expands, it sometimes pops the tube out. So give yourself about 5 minutes, and when you'll see it expand on the ends. Push it back in, check them all, push them back in. Normally it'll stay there after that, and you don't want to have any more problem, but I always check them twice. And some people use CA glue. Then you've got the problem with it dries quick. You get the tube so far in, then it can't get it right in. And they say that I buggered some blanks up because I couldn't get the tubes in with the CA glue. Well, all I do is I cut that off and I glue it back to the other end. Now the only thing you have to do if you do that is you've got to get another tube, and when you come to square your ends and size it down to the brass, just keep checking till it's the same size, and you've got a workable blunt. You only actually need the tube at the ends where you put your fittings, so you can cut it off and glue it in the other end, and you've got a workable blunt. Otherwise it's wasted, and there's no need for it to be really. Now, when you've got them glued in, you've then got to size them, and you've got to square them. Now, you don't square off the edge of your blunt, because the drill can sometimes wander, because the grain can pull it. You've got to be square off the tube, because that's what's going on there, and that's what's going to be central. This is what I use. You can get a milling tool and put it in the drill, and you can use that. There's nothing wrong with that at all. But I use this and the disc sander. Your sliding table on your disc sander, make sure it's square to the disc, and make sure your table is square to the disc. And then that just slips on there. You put it up to your fence, take it up to the disc, and move your sliding fence, and just keep checking till you can see the brass nice and bright in there. Turn it round to the other end, and that's the size you want. Just keep looking, make sure you can see that shiny brass, and that's your sanding done. You're ready to put it on the lathe. Now, some people will turn the pens, if it's a two-piece pen, they'll put both pieces on together. I prefer doing them one at a time. So tell you yourself, you can go from one, then you go straight on to the other one. It's the same with your sanding, if that's what you want to do. But I find, for myself, I find it better just doing one, and that's what I do. No, I've got to get myself familiar with this, because all my gubbins is over that side, so I'll be keeping reaching over there to put it on north.
That's it. I know your speed in there, on off button. Yeah. Okay.
Now I always turn at maximum speed. I mean, it's only a small piece of material, so it's not going to harm anything by. This is a bit big, this, unfortunately. I have a small one which fits in nice, so it gets us closer. But we'll manage. And always turn your jaw up to make sure you're not hitting anything before you set the lathe away. And the good practice is to set your lathe away on a slow speed, and wind your speed up. Otherwise, you might have something fly off. So turn it down low and then bring the speed up as you go. Oh, there we go. I can't see through them, but they protect my eyes. They're all covered in super glue and what have you. It doesn't make much odds to me. Now this little light, these are called a sewing machine, like that you can buy them off Amazon or eBay. They're not expensive. Magnetic. The only thing, there has been problems with the switch, with the dust getting in, so I just keep making a little bag like that over the switch, and it keeps the dust in. But they're a magic little lamp, and the only way I can tell that this is polished is by I see a shine line, and I move my head. And what I find is that if that line goes from one end to the other, I know it's all polished. If there's any dull pieces, I know it's got to be polished again. And you'll see you're still trying to see it, just to have it got into. I can't see it, but I've tried to see it, because if I just stand and do it, I daydream, and that's when things go wrong. So as long as I'm trying to see that, I'm concentrating on what I'm doing. And so we'll have a go. The belt in there is bigger than I would like, but we'll manage. Not like yet. It's only by trying that you know that you're right.
It's the top button,
Oui.
one above it. So, you see that? That's it.
Always stop your ear before you move anything. Normally, the music goes like that, with the hands go down. What I'm doing, once I get that set, it's difficult for me to adjust it again. So what I'm doing, I'll find where I can put, with this hand with my little tool. And what I do is the opposite way, I bring the handle high. So one mistake with a lot of wood turning here is that to move the arm. You always got to move your arm when you take the inside out of the wood. You move your body. Up. Vibration.
Alright.
I'll put the lips here.
There you go.
Just get a nice stance. Put your elbows in there. Sway my body. I'm not moving the arm. What I'm doing is I'm moving the body. You have more control on your tool. And you can hear it's a nice cut. Nearly there. That's a handy thing because anybody that's turned flick knows how it goes round here. It's simple when you go. If you push it off. It's a nice hard bristle. It just keeps it clean. This one I've got a pebble on one side and I've got some notch on here. I can tell the way I'm holding the tool. Otherwise I can pick it up and move it upside down. I use my fingers as my eyes. I can feel where I'm putting, what I'm putting. out. You'll be told if you have to pen turner, you'll turn it down, you'll see always leave a little bit on for sanding. Don't turn it right down to your bush. Leave a little bit for sanding, and then because you see it yourself, well, how much do I be going? What I've learned is I use my fingernail or my thumbnail. I put it on the bush, I move it to the plant, and if it sticks like it is there, it leaves some more off. So what I do is, I do it again, still sticking up a little bit. Now the nail just flips over. That's enough for sanding, which is the right side when you do it. That's as simple as that, just use your nail. If it sticks, take a bit more off. If it flips past, then you're on a good one. We had a bit of vibration, but I'm hanging over quite a bit trying to get the rest in it towards the end. That's 1/2 turn. That's it. Now you're understanding. The piece of turn there is a nib end. It's got the flare on the bottom. And after that we're ready for sanding. If you haven't got a readout or no, you haven't got variable speed, you still want to try and go down to round about what you think is about 900 speed. Between 900 and 1000. Of course you cannot tell, but what you will do is you'll get used to the sound as you turn it down. I will probably sand it up. I go through all the grits. I usually start the 100. And that may be a lot smoother than 100, but with it being a profile pen, and you're holding it in your hand, you want to have a nice flow from one end of the pen to the other. And although you can get a nice finish off the tool, you might have little bits of points and jigs where your tools just move that little bit. You get tool marks. You might not see them, but you can feel them. And I get a lot of pens ready made and donated for blind veterans, and I always check them over. And some of them have lovely finishes, but when you run your fingers down, they've started with a too fine a grit. And what they've done, they've got a nice polish, but it hasn't taken those little imperfections off. So you need to get them off. It's just detail, but that's what it's about now. I used to work through Peter years ago, and as you know, I made this one earlier. What I've done is, I will be doing some sanding later on, but you don't want to watch me sanding. So what I've done is I've got turning the other end just the same as that, just a different shape that's all. Well, I have one here that I've sanded down.
While Bill's just doing that, what he's got there is an old flip-flop he's turned it upside down and the grooves. You can lay your pens and your pieces in that.
That's what it is. It's a solo flip
Well,
flop.
yeah, this is we're walking down the beach with just one foot.
The thing is, you can turn 2 or 3 pens, you can lie them one there in the right orientation, and when you pick them up you know how they are, then you can put them on your knitting needle. And because the knitting needles are hand, you can get 3 pens on a knitting needle. Well, if it's a knitting needle with a washer on the bottom, cork on the top, you can thread them on, keeps them safe. Maybe, come on, that. You think you're playing or something. Then you can get 3 pens on there. Then you put your cork on, and it means you can put them on one side and you can handle them. And that's it. You know, then lost them on the floor or whatever. Well, that's the way I do it. So, I've sanded this down to 600. Just dry. I've been through the wet and dry stage and the micro mesh. I can't see micro mesh because it's all different. There's 9 different colours, and you don't really need to use it. I have an alternative method. Well, let me throw it on the floor again.
Just your little brush.
This is the thing, you know, I can make a pen in about an hour and a half, and it takes us half an hour to find a bit of drop in the floor. Yeah. So you learn patience, quite honestly. Now, again, I said, if you can get your lathe round about the 900 mark for sanding. Polishing wise, I always lift it up a little bit, round about the 1500. You don't want it too fast, because what it'll do, it'll dry the polish. Then you get rings on it and they're a bugger to get off. You've nearly got to go back to the tool, because the friction sets it on. So you don't want to be, you want to be faster than sanding, but not too fast. And it's trial and error. You'll find what suits you and what works. And that's it. Now, we've done the sanding down to 600. Then the sanding is, do it with the lathe running, then stop your lathe and rub along your blank as you turn it slowly. That takes the rings off. And then between each grit, you've got to wipe it down, because the sandpaper sheds grit and you can get it on here, and then you're trying to go to a finer grit that you're going to miss. And some people use a cloth, so people, you know, whatever. Me, I set the lathe away and I just go like that with my hand and wait it on there. That's enough. So, this wire wool, it's 4-row wire wool, which is 0, 0, 0, 0. And I polish with it, rope there, that can happen. You know. If it's going to happen now, isn't it? You've got a smaller bit. These are all little traps that won't fall into it one time or another. And that's why they say don't use a cloth, because the cloth will wrap round and catch. And if you use a paper towel or you use a proper cloth, they tear.
Yeah.
And otherwise you can you get a good wrap with it as well when it's doing its round. You just use a smaller bit. It's still snapping. Just be careful that's all. But this is magic, because I have that light here so I can see a shine line. our child ladies to start to come there now.